The drizzle pattered on the porch of my small house in the suburbs of Columbus, Ohio, like a beat to the disappointment that was rising inside me. I sat huddled on the worn sofa, hugging the American flag pillow, a souvenir from a bustling fair that was now just a distant memory. In the dim orange light from the ceiling lamp, my mother stood there, near the dining table, her hands trembling as she held a cup of cold coffee like the Disneyland dream that the whole family had cherished. Her voice was as light as a breeze, but each word she uttered was heavy, stabbing straight into the hope I had built up over the months. Outside, the street was quietly immersed in the damp night, and inside, I felt a silent storm rolling through my family. "Jessie," Mum began, her voice shaking but steady. "I know you've been looking forward to this trip. All of us. We've been planning this since last summer, after we saw the Independence Day fireworks at Franklin Park. Remember? Disneyland in California, the castles, the rides, and the night parade you and Lucy talked about." Mum smiled faintly, but the smile quickly faded. "But now, things aren't what I expected." I fell silent, not knowing what to say. Memories of that summer came flooding back. After the fireworks, the whole family had sat on the park lawn, eating ice cream from the truck and talking about the trip. I'd made a list of things to bring: new sneakers, the Mickey hat I'd saved up my allowance for, and a notebook to record our trip. My sister Lucy, who was 6, sang Sweet Caroline for the next few days, imagining herself standing in front of Cinderella's castle. Dad promised to take a family photo with Goofy, even though he was never good with a camera. But now everything seemed to fade away after Mum said that. Mum came over and sat down in the armchair across from me. She put her coffee down on the table, rubbing her forehead as if trying to clear away a headache. "You know," Mum continued, "your dad lost his job right before Christmas. The auto plant where he worked was cutting staff because sales had dropped off after the holidays. He tried to find another job, but the job market is terrible right now. Our savings will only cover the bills and food for a little while longer if I'm careful. The trip to Disneyland, it was more expensive than I thought it would be." I nodded, feeling empty. I remember my dad being happiest when he got a small bonus for working overtime on Halloween. He hugged me tight and told me that we would have a trip of a lifetime next summer. But now, every time I see him, he sits quietly in front of the TV, his eyes glued to the economic news on NBC, or scrolling through his to-do list on his phone. I heard him whisper to my mum in the kitchen one night, "I don't want to disappoint the kids, but I don't know what else to do." I pretended not to hear, but the words haunted me. My mum looked at me, her eyes shining with a faint hope. "But don't be too sad, okay? This is just temporary. I promise that next year when things are better, we'll all go to Disneyland. I'll save every penny, Dad will find a new job, and we'll have a great trip. Do you believe me?" I nodded, though my heart was still heavy. I wasn't sad that the trip was cancelled. I was sad that my family was more fragile than I'd ever thought. I'd always seen my parents as superheroes. Dad, the one who fixed everything around the house, from leaky faucets to my broken bike. Mum, the one who always had the answer. But now I saw them as helpless, exhausted. In the weeks that followed, I began to notice small changes in the house. Mum stopped buying Cheerios or Oreos for Lucy and me. Instead, she picked up cheap cereal and cookies from Walmart, always calculating. One time, I saw her standing in the meat aisle at Kroger, clutching her purse, hesitating before buying just a few potatoes and carrots. Dad came home later, his eyes dark from applying to jobs on Indeed and LinkedIn. He was quieter, but every time he saw me, he'd try to pat me on the shoulder and smile wryly. "I'll figure it out, Jessie." One night, while I was doing my 8th grade math homework, Lucy came running into the room, holding her old teddy bear from Christmas. "Jessie, Mom said we're going to Disneyland next year, right? I want to see Minnie Mouse. Come with me." I looked at her beaming face and felt a little lighter. "Yeah, I'll go with you," I said, stroking her head. I wanted Lucy to keep her innocence, even though the future was still uncertain. I started to change. I stopped asking for new toys or clothes. I helped Mum clean up, washed the dishes, even tried to cook Sunday breakfast, though the scorched eggs made Mum laugh out loud. "You're so clumsy, Jessie," Mum said, but her eyes lit up for the first time in weeks. As time passed, I began to accept that the postponed trip wasn't the end. But then, one spring afternoon, everything changed. I was watching YouTube when I heard Dad yell from the living room, "Everybody get out here." His voice was full of life, no longer as languid as before. I ran out, saw Dad standing in the middle of the room, holding the phone, his face red with excitement. "I got the job," he exclaimed, pulling Mom into a tight hug. "The assembly company in Dayton, the pay is higher than before, and they're giving me paid vacation this summer." Mum burst into tears, but they were tears of joy. Lucy jumped around the room, singing her favourite song, "Sweet Caroline." I stood there, my heart pounding, unable to believe this miracle. "So, what about Disneyland?" I asked, my voice trembling. Mum wiped her tears, smiling brightly. "What's the point of postponing it until next year? This summer, we'll all be on a plane to California. Disneyland is waiting for us." Dad winked at me. "And I'll take a picture of you and Mickey. I'm practicing my photography skills this time." Lucy shouted, "Sister Jessie, Minnie Mouse too." The family laughed so hard that it drowned out the evening news on the TV. That night, I lay in bed, imagining my family standing in front of the Disneyland gates, the music playing, the California sunshine shining brightly. The trip was more than just a vacation. It was our triumph after months of hardship. I smiled, looking forward to summer, when we would all walk through that magical gate together.